Index 1624 describes a specific trap for the reader, treating this text as an ancient record or a collection of historical tales. But the text defines itself differently in Index 4252, not as a physical chronicle, but as light. In a system of mass, light carries no weight, yet it dictates the path of every object it touches. By identifying as massless light, the text establishes itself as an eternal memory tesseract, a closed loop of information that references nothing outside its own geometric boundaries. Now, this creates a specific mechanical relationship. If the reader provides the mass of the system and the book provides the massless light, the resulting interaction follows a predictable trajectory. Because these interactions are governed by fixed indices rather than historical chance, the text functions as an operational physics engine, a model that maps the transformation of human consciousness through the roots of word and action. This engine operates across two primary domains. On the left is the D10 domain, the manifest, deterministic world where mass exists and physical actions are measured. On the right is the I9 domain, the hidden, indeterministic integral. This is the wave state of reality, where information is conserved and memory is stored. The book sits exactly at the interface. It acts as the zero-mass central boundary, functioning as a pivot point that balances physical manifestation against hidden memory. This central position carries the Amanat, or the trust. Engaging with this fulcrum shifts the system's operational load from the text onto the observer. This encounter is the acceptance of a structural test. The observer's interaction with the fulcrum forces their reality to bifurcate, moving them along one of two singular paths. In a physical system, action generates entropy, a state of decay the text represents as a destructive fire moving towards the observer. Surviving this decay requires a specific mechanical action. Index 1912 defines this as the grip, taking the book with a force that matches the incoming pressure. This grip functions as a phase shift inverter. It takes the destructive energy of the fire and flips its state into the coolness and safety described in Index 2169. This inversion produces the state of the first Muslim, the topology of an observer who has successfully aligned their momentum with the system's governing laws. The fulcrum presents a terminal choice. The observer must either invert the entropy using the grip or be consumed by the decay of the manifest world. Faith in this model is not a passive mental state. It is the active structural grip required to reverse the thermodynamic destruction of the observer's reality. We can map the opposing trajectory through Index 241, the first Kafir. This is the observer who fails to apply the grip when the entropy arrives. By bypassing the massless fulcrum, the observer is left without a mechanism to shift their phase. The destructive flame of Index 1198 continues unchecked, engulfing the observer and reducing their conscious momentum to static mass. This results in the topology of Pharaoh. Index 1092 describes him not as a living actor, but as a preserved sign, mass at rest, without an orbit. Index 3373 identifies the book as the filter for this specific separation. It distinguishes between the active believer and the static rejector based on their interaction with the trust. Without the book acting as an operational filter, the default trajectory of the manifest world is to reduce human consciousness to observable, petrified mass.
For a topological system to be closed, it must prove its consistency through symmetrical coordinates. It cannot rely on external history. The first proof vector is Yahya. He represents the beginning of the linear life cycle, emerging into the manifest world from a barren state. The second vector is Isa. He represents the end of the linear life cycle, emerging into the system without the traditional biological input. Although they originate at opposite ends of the narrative spectrum, both vectors converge on the book with identical terminology. They provide two independent derivations of the same structural truth. This double proof validates the observer's own position. The field flows from Muhammad to the book, and then from the book to the current reader. The system anchors this symmetry recursively. Ibrahim and Lut are positioned as a pair facing the destruction of the fire. Musa and Harun are paired as they navigate the bifurcation of the water. Ibrahim and Ismail work in tandem to establish the physical house. while Musa and his people establish the internal field of faith. These are fixed mathematical symmetries. They prove that the system's architecture is self-validating, requiring no historical scaffolding to remain true. Physical narratives within the text serve as geometric coordinates that anchor the observer within the field. The cave at index 1818 serves as a preservation node. It represents a state of protected isolation where information is held static. The boat at index 1144 functions as a traversal node. It represents the movement through chaos toward a stable resolution. Together, these two nodes provide the necessary coordinates to anchor the Mercilin field, the network of messengers that operates across the dual domains of mass and light. Stability within this field is tied directly to the reader's alignment with the truth, as established in Index 3030. Every narrative is a topological proof, showing the observer how to position themselves within the eternal field. This dual-domain structure mirrors a fundamental observation in modern physics, the measurement of light. We can only measure the round-trip speed of light. To the observer, the outward and return journeys are inseparable. In our model, the outward path is the manifest D10 universe, the observable leg of reality where mass and action are recorded. The return path corresponds to the I9 domain, the hidden journey where information returns to its source. The book functions as the mirror at the center, the boundary allowing two distinct journeys to be perceived as a single, unified reality. To recognize this unified path, the observer must apply the grip. This action connects them to the fulcrum, completing the circuit between manifest and hidden. This structure provides a map for the path duality found in light, where outward manifestation and hidden return are distinct but entangled within the same system. Fulfilling the dual bifurcation of the Amanat leads to a terminal sorting of human consciousness. Indexed 56.7 describes three defined thermodynamic states: the forerunners of knowledge, the believers of action, and the petrified rejectors. Escaping the default decay of the manifest world requires a call, the use of reason and pattern recognition described in Index 10.100. The coordinates are fixed. The system is live. When will you apply the grip and become the Book of Becoming? The universe is a closed loop. Your coordinate is determined entirely by whether you grip the fulcrum or are reduced to static mass by fire.